Okay, we're going to continue on here factoring and solving, and I always struggle with trying to figure out how much work to show and how fast I should move. So if I'm moving too slow, I'm sorry. If I'm moving too fast, I'm sorry. I don't quite know what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to get these things. It says here set equal to 0, so I need this thing to have an equal sign and a 0 on one of the sides. Now, the easier thing would be to move this over. That's only one thing to move, but then that becomes a -4 for the x squared, and I always like to have my x squareds positive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these two. I'm going to minus the 9 over to this side, and I'm going to add the 9x over to this side. And they're not like terms with anything else, so they're going to have to stay separated. So 0 equals 4x squared plus 9x minus 9. Now I will have to factor this, and I'm just winging this right now. 4x and 1x. 3 and 3 make that one negative. And then that gets me 12x minus 3. 12 minus 3 is 9, and that's my middle term. So I've got my 4x minus 3 and my 1x plus 3. I'm not going to write the 1. I'll just write x plus 3. And then what we need to do is we need to split these up. So 4x minus 3, that bracket can equal 0, or the other bracket can equal 0. I'm okay with either. Now 4x minus 3, let's do that one first. I can add the 3 over to the other side. 4x equals 3, and then I can divide the 4 over. X is equal to 0.75, 3/4. And then the right one, x plus 3 equals 0. I'll just minus the 3 over to this side. X equals -3. So those are my two answers. You could plug those in. Actually, I should probably just move this. I know I made my equal sign there, but I should probably move this over a little bit and apparently shrink it. So that's how you do that. Get everything to one side, make it equal to 0, factor it, and then do two separate equations equal to 0. All right. So next one. Minus the 24x over to this side. So I get 0 equals 10x cubed minus 22x squared minus 24x. Now this one is a little bit sneaky because you can take something common out of all of those. I know I can take a 2. I can't take a 4. I have to take a 2. So I can take a 2 out and I can take an x out. So if I take a 2 and an x out of here, I'm left with a 5x squared. 2 out of there would be 11, divided 2, and there would be an x. And divide this by 2, I get a 12, and the x's are gone. So I had to take out a common factor, and now I could factor this. So 5x and 1x. And then this needs to be 12. So 6 and 2 or 4 and 3? I don't know. So that's 15 minus 4. 15 minus 4 is positive 11. So I don't want that. I'm going to change it. Negative 15 plus 4 is negative 11. So there we go. So 0 equals 2x. And then we've got the 5x plus 4. And the x, 1x, or x minus 3. Now, I've got 3 x's to solve for. So I've got 2x equals 0. Or 5x plus 4 equals 0, or x minus 3 equals 0. I've got 3 things. And I'm going to move a little bit faster through this. Here I'm going to add the 3 over. I'm just going to write it. I'm going to add plus 3 and plus 3, so your answer would just be 3. You should know that. You should look at this and say, what would make this statement true? Well, a 3 would have to go in there. This one, divide by 2, divide by 2. 0 divided by 2 is 0. And this one, I'm going to minus the 4 over. So then it becomes like that. Minus the 4, minus 4. And then divide by 5. So x equals -4/5. So this one has 3 answers to this. 0, -4/5, and +3. What did I do for that? Well, I brought the 24x over by subtracting it. I found out that there was a 2 and an x in common that I pulled out. I then factored this thing like normal, and then I had 3 x's to solve for, so I made 3 separate little equations equal to 0 and then solved them. All right, let's keep going here. I'm going to move this stuff over. So I'm going to minus the 4. And I'm going to add the 2x. And I want to bring it over to the left because that keeps my x squared positive. So x squared, what is that, minus 8x? 16 minus 4 is 12. So x, 16, sorry, 12, what, 6 and 2? Make them both negative. Then I've got negative 6x and negative 6x and negative 2x. If I add them, I get negative 8x, which is what I want. So I have an x minus 2 and an x minus 6 equals 0. So I can split that up to x minus 2 equals 0 or x minus 6 equals 0. And then I can add the 2 over. So x is equal to 2 if you plussed it over to this side. And if you plus the 6 over, you get x is equal to 6. So obviously I skipped a little bit there. I said some things verbally. If you want to take a look at the like I said before, I think, take out the notes for this thing that are written down a little bit neater and have those while you watch the video. Okay, so 6x squared, that's positive, so I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to move the negative 6x over to this side, and then I'm going to minus the 1. There's nowhere to add that, so I'll have to just tack that on at the end. There's a 6x squared. 7x minus 6x is just a 1x, and then just a minus 1 is equal to 0. There's nothing I can take out of there in common, so I'll just do, I don't know, 3x and 2x would get me a 6x squared. To get 1, I need negative 1 and 1, or the negative goes there, so I don't know where to put the negative. I'll put the negative here, and I get 3x negative 2x, which is 1x. Okay, well, that worked out quite nicely. I didn't think that would work. So I've got a 3x minus 1 and a 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. So I can do 2 separate ones. 3x minus 1 equals 0 and 2x plus 1 equals 0. So those are my 2 equations that I can solve. So for this first one here, I'll add the 1 to the other side, which will get me a positive 1. And then I'll divide both by 3. So x equals a third. And then I'll minus the 1 for this. So minus 1 and minus 1. And then divide by the 2. Now, I do that in my head usually with these things. I think, okay, I'm going to move the 1 over. It'll become negative, and I'll divide by 2. So negative 1 over 2. I'll move the negative over. It'll become a positive 1, and I'll divide by 3. So positive 1 over 3. So if you want to start doing these in your head, you don't actually have to show all of this work. You should very quickly be like, oh, negative a half will work. Oh, positive a third will work. So hopefully with enough practice, you'll be able to see that. All right. So what was that? Negative a half and positive a third, yeah. Okay, one more question. I'm going to have to erase this a little bit because this is in my way. Okay, so I'm going to bring all of these 3 things over. So plus an x cubed, plus an x cubed, it's a 1x cubed. Minus an x squared, minus a 1x squared. And then minus a 10x, and that can't go anywhere. I'll just chuck that over there. So here's my equal sign. Everything is gone now on the right, so it's 0. 2x cubed plus 1x cubed is a 3x cubed. 2x squared minus 1x squared. 2 minus 1 is just a 1, so it's a 1x squared minus the 10x. So there's no numbers that are here, but you can take out an x. So if I take an x out of all of those, I'm left with a 3x squared plus a 1x minus 10 is equal to 0. And I guess I can go 3x and 1x to factor that. And 5 and 2. Now, that does give me 10, but I need negative 10. So I'll put the negative there. That's a 6x. That's a negative 5x. And that gets me 1x if I add them. 6 minus 5 is 1. Wow, I'm very, very smart. So there we go, there we go. So I've got the x, and then I've got the 3x minus 5, and the 1x, or just x, plus 2 is equal to 0. So I've got three things. I have x equals 0, 3x minus 5 equals 0, and x plus 2 equals 0. So for something like this, you should be able to see, oh, that's going to be, I'm going to move over the 5, it'll be positive 5, and then I'll divide by 3. So x is equal to 5 over 3. You should hopefully be able to spot that right away. Add the 5 over, so it's positive, and then divide by 3. 5 over 3. Here, bring the 2 over, it's just negative 2. So subtract the 2 over, it's negative. X equals 0, it's already done for you. And that's how quick it should be. But again, I think I've written in a little more clarity in my notes. So that is it for these ones, example 3. Example 4 is composite functions. And so I will do those a little bit later in the next video. And but I've zoomed out here so that you could see kind of everything that I've done. I'm sorry if it's really messy. And make sure you practice these ones again or the ones in the worksheet if you're having trouble. I mean, if you're getting this stuff, you're getting it, which is awesome. I am going to have more questions that look like this on assessments just because they're a little bit more involved. So I like those ones.